Hello, listeners. Kathy Lawless, Life Story Curator. I'm all about capturing and curating career and life stories as a meaningful way to celebrate a milestone moment like a big O birthday, anniversary, retirement, or graduation. And I'm at my best when curating photo books that move your memories from the basement or your phone or your computer to the coffee table, giving you and your family and friends access to these treasured memories for years to come. I also love curating and capturing life and career stories through this podcast series, How Did I Get Here? It's a series of interviews designed for people just starting out in their careers, people in transition, or possibly feeling stuck, and giving them access to the stories of people who have been there, done that, so that they might be inspired with some new ideas, or maybe just comforted knowing they are not alone, that everybody starts somewhere and everybody goes through times of transition and times when they feel stuck. Today, I'm very excited to be interviewing Tracy Graf. Welcome, Tracy.
Hi, thank you for having me here, Kathy. I'm excited.
And Tracy is the CEO of Fuse Igniting Communication. And we met through the Wise Woman organization. So we've just gotten to know each other, but we were part of a retreat. That was back in April. And it was so fun, learning about each other. And it's like, this would be a great fit. So I'd really like to get her story out there. We're going to pause for a moment to hear from a very happy Life Story Curator client.
My name is Eleanor Allen, and I recently finished a project with Kathy about my mother's life story. And the reason I wanted to do her life story was that she's first 91 years old, and second, we've been talking about it for years as a family. I have 4 brothers and many nieces and nephews, and we'd never gotten around to making the book. Then one day I was out with another friend who's a mutual friend of mine and Kathy's, and she showed me the book that Kathy had made about her parents' 50th wedding anniversary. And I thought right then and there, this is the answer. I got to hire Kathy to get this life story finally done for my mother. So I did. And working with Kathy is just a joy and a pleasure. So first, how do you organize somebody's 90 plus years into a story that's succinct, but also very interesting? And Kathy helped guide myself and my niece and one of my brothers. I have 4 brothers. One of them worked on this project with us intensely into the storyboarding process, and then working into, okay, these are the chapters of her life we're going to work on, which we went by decade. And then for each decade of her life, what do we need? We need this many pictures and this many vignettes. And then Kathy also brought in this great idea to put in QR codes of recordings. I hadn't even thought of that, but we did several of those. Some are my mother's audio recordings. We captured some of those audio files. Some are video recordings of her telling stories of her life that we have in the book, but of course, much more detail when we have the recording. And some QR codes are also documents. So we put a link to my father's autobiography that he had written for us before he passed as well, and my grandfather's autobiography that my father had done interviewing my grandfather. So very special, and those come to life as well in the book. So I encourage you, if you have any inclination of documenting someone's life story in your life, definitely go for it. It's worth the work, and the product, in this case, my mother's story, is absolutely wonderful, and she was over the moon with joy. So don't wait, do it. Document the life of your loved ones or whatever special occasion there is, and work with Kathy, and you will have a wonderful experience.
Tracy, before we get into how did I get here for you, tell us a little bit about you. Where did you grow up, where you are in the birth order in your family, and how you think both of those things shaped you as a person?
Yeah. So the first one is a much longer explanation than the second. So actually, I think I'll probably just start with the second one about the birth order, and then I'll go into where I grew up. So the birth order it's just my sister and I, and my sister's 4.5 years older than me. It impacted me in the way that until I was about 13, she was always the boss. She always got to sit in the front seat and I always had to sit in the back, and she was always better at sports and, whatever, those kind of things. But then when I was 13, she went off to college and my parents got separated or divorced. And so my mom and I kind of grew up together because my parents had been married for over 20 years. And my mom kind of was starting her kind of dating life at the same time I was and whatnot. Not that I was dating at 13, but shortly after, my mom wasn't right away either. So I think my mom and I kind of growing up together in that way allowed me some really strong leadership skills from pretty early on, because I kind of became the family counselor. My sister was away at college. My dad and I would have 3-hour long talks. And then same thing with my mom. So yeah, I think that's probably says enough about birth order.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love this birth order question because there's so many family dynamics that really impact us as young people, right? And so, like you were saying, for most of your, for 13 years, you're kind of in the back seat. And then all of a sudden it's just you and your parents, and yet they're divorced, and then they're going through some pretty difficult times, right, as adult. And then you're like, well, geez, what is this? And now they're kind of bringing you into those conversations.
Yeah,
wow.
and my sister off at college, it was like, well, I guess I'm going to take this leadership role. And so I learned how to start cooking. My mom's a wonderful person and she took care of me so well, but I was like, well, I want to eat some other things. And so kind of learned how to cook and things like that. So yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. When I think about some of the breakups in my world, I was tended to not eat. Right. And I remember there was a phase where I went through Eggo waffles. And, it's just whatever's easiest, and there was also a weird job in there. But yeah, isn't it funny? But I didn't have a kiddo. But here you are going, wait a minute.
I'm the opposite. I'm a stress eater. So I eat more when I'm stressed.
All righty. Well,
and then so back to your other question.
Okay.
The first one was, where did I grow up? So that's a harder one to answer. Actually, it's usually pretty easy for people, but we moved a lot as through my childhood. So I lived in 15 different houses by the time that I was 13. My dad was in different sales jobs and kind of always taking the next role in the next city. So my sister went to 8 different grade schools. I fortunately didn't have to go to as many different grade schools, but so we were kind of mostly the Midwest. Most of our family is in Missouri, Kansas, that kind of area. We lived there. Then we got a little stint in Florida, and oh boy, I loved that. We had a pool in our backyard for a few 3 years. And then we moved back to the Midwest and to some different areas. And so I kind of say St. Louis is home. That's where my mom still is. And then my sister has been in the Chicago area for a long time. So kind of St. Louis and Chicago. And I lived in a lot of different places as an adult, also Chicago, Minneapolis, North Carolina, and then ended in Denver 13 and a half years ago and found out this is the place I want to stay. I love everything about Colorado and don't want to move again if I don't have to.
Yeah. Wow. That's a lot of starting over.
Yeah. It really actually, that also really shaped who I was, though, of course, as you probably could imagine. It really made me open to new ideas. I love meeting new people. I love having conversations with people about what's different about their life than mine, because it was really nice to see, while lots of things are, homogenous across the country, there's a lot of things that are different in different places across the country too. Living in Evansville, Indiana was very different than Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. Let me tell you,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's great. Yeah. Cause when I think about, we were pretty stable in one school. So then when we did move my junior year in high school, it was pretty traumatic, right? Well, how do you meet friends? How do you become the new kid? And what does that look like to be the new kid and, open to new people, meeting new people? I think we were very sheltered because I grew up in a small town. So interesting. Yeah. I got to say, I love these questions because it really, I know I've met you, we've talked in a variety of, deep conversations, but now it's like, ooh, this really explains a lot.
I think it also explains, I didn't ever really think about it, but that's probably why on my wall, I have this sign that says life begins. I don't know if it'll focus. Oh, it won't. Life begins at the end of your comfort zone. I love that getting out of your comfort zone really helps, in my opinion, to have better experiences in life.
Yeah. Well, and it sounds like you kind of embrace the meeting new people, not resented it because, as a young person, it could be easy to be like, oh, we're moving again. I just made friends and what are you doing and all that. But yeah, you're like, whoa, it's a new adventure. I mean, it is how it's kind of presented to you by your parents too,
Oh,
right?
let me tell you, it felt rough at the time. I remember when we were in 5th grade having to move from Florida to St. Louis, and I thought it was the end of my world. I remember crying the whole car ride up to St. Louis and thinking my, 5th grade boyfriend was going to be the love of my life that I was leaving behind. And it feels really rough at that time. And I know that's what a lot about this podcast is about, is overcoming those challenges that at the time I thought it was the worst thing ever. But now that I look back, I realize how much it helped me grow, expand, be open to those new ideas. I love international travel now. I love going and, meeting new people and understanding new cultures, and not just staying in a hotel or a tour bus, but really getting in and volunteering and things like that. And I think, that's the things I probably would not have embraced as much if I had always stayed in the same place as a kid.
Yeah, because you were definitely pushed out of your comfort zone early on, and then you're comfortable being uncomfortable, and that's a whole different approach to things. Wow, very cool. Okay, well, shifting gears a little bit, are you an introvert, an extrovert, or an ambivert?
So I am highly extroverted, and I know this very much so because I lead insights discovery workshops, where that's a lot about it. Incorporates your if you're introverted, extroverted, if you use a thinking process to make decisions, or feeling, like using your heart or gut. And then also how you perceive things through like a storytelling lens, or through more like a fact-based lens. So yeah, I am highly extroverted, and I think that's part of why I lead a communication skills company, is because I like communicating.
Yeah, okay, very cool, very cool. On the fun meter scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the couch potato and 5 being the life of the party, where do you put yourself?
Well, so I'm a 0 of couch potato. I don't know if I'm necessarily fun, but I'm always doing something. My mother-in-law says I have a egg beater up my butt. Like I just constantly going, I can't sit, I can't sit still. But yeah, so I very social, love to be with time with my friends and family and whatnot. And so I hope I am fun for the people I'm around, but I know I'm getting to have fun when I'm with others.
When you're with others, okay. Somewhat like the Energizer Bunny, huh? That you're
Yeah.
always going and going and going and okay, on the risk meter scale of 1 to 5, 1 being low risk taker, 5 high risk taker, where do you put yourself?
I think I used to be about 5, hence why I've got the life begins at the end of your comfort zone sign on my wall, and hence why I love new experiences. I will say, I think COVID made me probably be a little bit less, though. It kind of made me enjoy the comforts of home more. I appreciated not always leaving home to have some new experience. So I'm probably only like a 3.5 now, or something like that.
3.5. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking you were going to be high on that with your, our discussion about being on, being so comfortable, being uncomfortable. That, there's a lot of times what it takes to take risks, right? Is that you have to be like, well, no, let's step into this. But
yeah. And I think also, since I've been in Denver so long now, 13.5 years in the same place, I mean, different houses, but the same city, has made me a little bit more risk adverse, maybe because I'm like, wow, what could possibly be better than this? I don't want to leave it. Versus before, I'd say, well, who cares about this risk of taking a new job in a new city, or who cares about, relocating for some other reason, or, but I think I still feel risky, in especially international travel senses, that I still want to go everywhere in the world, and don't have a inhibition about that. So
yeah, totally get it. Okay, cool. Well, let's talk a little bit about what it means to be the CEO of Fuse Igniting Communication, and then we'll get into the how did I get here?
Okay. So with Fuse Igniting Communication, we deliver engaging workshops. Engaging is a key focus here. It's not like a death by PowerPoint type of workshop, right? It's very interactive. And our workshops are really focused on helping to strengthen the communication skills of our clients in the 3 different areas of team collaboration, transformational leadership, and partnership development. So I love the fact that I get to get out and facilitate these workshops myself and really connect one-to-one with our participants. But then I also have a team of facilitators that are also out delivering them so that we can get our awesome workshops out to other people. And that's been kind of a consistent theme of my career for, gosh, probably over 15 years, is enjoying leading people to help them be the best at what they do also. So, yeah.
Yeah. And communication, so important, right? We think we're communicating. We're all using some of the same words, but then it's like, oh, I have different meaning for that. I've made that mean something else, even though there's a common definition
Or
and
a
a
different
common meaning.
perspective on it. You might be have
Mhm.
the same definition, but the definition feels different to one person than another, right? Some people have different history, different experiences with that word or that situation, and we don't understand what everybody else has been through up until the moment that we're there together. So
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. Very cool. Okay. Well, Tracy, tell us then kind of how you got started on this. So we're going to take you back to junior high, high school when you were a young person just starting out. Did you always want to be the CEO of your own company and that communication was kind of your thing?
No. So high school, I did love to be in charge. I will say that I was the president of the student council, so got to, I loved organizing events and things like that. Then in college, I took an internship. I went to St. Mary's College in South Bend, Indiana, which is associated with the University of Notre Dame. So I did an internship with the Notre Dame Public Relations Office. And I think that's probably kind of what got me started. I had chosen communications as my major only because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. I thought that was a really
Ah,
hard decision to make.
uh-huh.
When you're 18 or 19 and you're having to declare your major. Oh gosh. So communications to me sounded like the world was my oyster. I could do whatever I wanted to with that. And so that's how I got into communications. And then that public relations internship led me into my first job out of college, was with a public relations firm in Chicago called Reuter Finn. I was very fortunate that the way I got that job was through one of our communications professors at my college. Was really good at connecting people. So he would, alums would send job openings to him. This was before LinkedIn, right? Or Indeed or any of those job listing sites. So people would send him job openings and he would email them out to all of the recent grads if we were interested. And so I got, my first boss was Rose Majeski, who was also a recent graduate of St. Mary's. And I don't think that's the only reason she hired me. I hope I had other qualifications, but so I started in public relations, right in downtown Chicago, looking over the Lake Michigan. So that
Oh,
was where
wow. That sounds kind of glamorous as a
yeah,
first job, being in a urban community like that. And yeah.
I rise and yeah, and it was one of those small world things. My sister actually happened to be stationed for her consulting role that she was in then in a corporate apartment 1 block away from where my job was. And I mean, so I got to live for free in downtown Chicago as my sister's roommate. We had to share a bed, because she only had a 1 bedroom, but got to, for the first 9 months I was in Chicago, got to live with my sister and be 1 block away from work. And Chicago's a big city. So the small world of that happened to work out that way was pretty nice.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it's saving you probably a lot of money on not only on rent, but did you have a car? You maybe you didn't even
Yeah,
have a car, right?
didn't
Because you could walk
start. Yeah, exactly.
and all the
I was very fortunate with that starting of the connection. That goes back to connections, which you'll probably hear me mention a lot. The power of connection is one of my highest values and why I love being involved with our workshops with Fuse, that we get to help people connect better. And I think that's where I started appreciating it, was when my college professor did that connecting for us of other alums that had jobs that were open. And then my sister helping me connect me with, the resources to be able to live in an expensive city like that I think I was making less than $25,000 a year then. And my next roommate after that, she was in law school and she was making $25,000 a summer as her law internship. And I was like, wow, I'm only making 25
Oh,
a year.
oh, that's a
Yeah.
little, that
Yeah.
stings a little, right? And
Yeah. But yeah.
but it lights a fire, right? You're like,
Yeah.
okay, I
Yeah.
to figure this out. I'm just getting started, right? So, but that's great that you had those connections and that you kind of paid attention to that. Sometimes people help you out and you're not quite sure how that works maybe going forward or how you can leverage that going forward. But if you really learn the value of that, then you're like, oh, how can I leverage
Yeah.
other people? Yeah.
Networking is so important. I think it's so good to have a two-way street with that, not only taking people's opportunities, but also giving. And so I've tried to do the same back, because I was actually, even my second job was even a very similar connection. It was also through that same professor that let me know about a job, and another St. Mary's alumni was she was letting us know about a job. She was not my boss, but she was my coworker at Feld Entertainment, which produces Disney on Ice and Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus and some other shows. And so I appreciated that connection again, of that I got to get that job because somebody let me know in my network. And then I've tried to do the same then for others, pass that along and let people know when I could help them also.
Yeah. Because it does feel great. I got to tell you, it seems like I want to help more than I need help a lot of times, especially there's certain points in your career where you're in the needing help, and there's probably more points in your career where you can help than you're in need. So yeah, put all those credits, so to speak, in the bank, right, on helping others, so that when it's your turn for the debit, so to speak, or the ask, that it's like, oh yeah, well, I've already kind of helped a lot of people and that's my nature. So well, very cool. Okay, so you get your second job then, and it sounds like, and that's kind of in the entertainment space then, and
it is family entertainment, yeah, but it was a marketing role. So I moved from public relations into marketing. So my three real phases of my career, which are all communications focused, was the public relations that I already mentioned, marketing, and then I moved into the training role I'm in now. So we talked about public relations, and now with marketing, I ended up spending 16 years of my career in that marketing phase, and 10 of those years were with Feld Entertainment. And yeah, I loved it. It was so amazing to get to bring the joy of things like Mickey Mouse to families live in their hometown, or when Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus was still around. It's currently on hiatus. I hear they might be coming back in a couple of years without animals, but also just people getting to see real life people up on a high wire doing real risky things without special effects and that kind of thing. It was such an amazing job. And I traveled a ton for that. Also, at one point I had, I think, 22 different markets around the US. So I got to, again, fulfill my joy of getting to meet new people across the country, and have tried to keep some connections in most cities. And, I got to live in lots of different places also for that role. So,
yeah, very cool. Well, what a fun job too, though, because you're marketing something fun, right? And entertainment. There was a point in my career I kind of was not very excited about the products that I was working on. They were, money orders, bank official checks. So that's not very exciting and fun, right? But to be, but still, they're an important part of life. And, when you start looking at, how do you enable commerce and looking at the purpose behind things, then you can get a little bit more connected to it. But your entertainment, that would be also, it would be fun, and it would be then you're working with families, you get to see the joy of it. So
yeah, and I think that's the thing, is the glass half full or glass half empty type of thing. I certainly was easy to see the glass half full when I was, marketing such a wonderful experience. But I said, I'm glad I'm not marketing vacuum cleaners. But then I started thinking about it. I was like, well, I think I could find the passion in that because I could be helping people to, more efficiently have a nice clean house and feel comfortable. I think, it depends on what we're doing. But then I was very fortunate that I then got to do marketing for Vail Resorts, which their tagline is, an experience of a lifetime. And I know that can be debated by some people depending on which ski resort you go to. But I was very and am currently very personally passionate about skiing. And so I just love that feeling of flying down the mountain and, being free. And I've never been that athletic, but snow skiing is something that I really enjoy. And so I loved getting to bring that to people. When I worked for Vail Resorts, I was a marketing director there, and I oversaw their first division of what they called the urban ski areas, which were small ski hills in the Midwest. So outside of Minneapolis, Detroit, and Chicago. So back to my roots, I got to go back to the Midwest and bring the epic adventures of Vail Resorts to those communities with these little ski hills that they had there. And then, of course, get them on that season pass to get them to come out to our big mountains out here in Colorado or Utah or Canada, et cetera. And gosh, I just loved that job also. Just what a wonderful opportunity to bring that experience to so many people.
Well, awesome. Well, this is so cool that you love these jobs and everything. Did you ever reach a point though where you got felt stuck? Or maybe,
Yes.
you were like, okay, I love the company, but maybe the job now, or the job is getting more tedious, or I need a new challenge. So what were some of your challenges that you faced in that realm?
Yeah. So when I'm going to sound like I'm probably much older than I am when I say this, but when I started in marketing, it was much more about relationship based. It was more talking to people. We did a lot of things like group sales where you'd go into a company and you'd talk about the Disney on Ice show coming and selling tickets to, all their employees, or talking with moms and understanding what their preferences were, so we knew how to market to them better. I worked with mom bloggers once. That was a new thing, halfway into my marketing career was mom bloggers, and got to develop relationships with them. And I loved that part of marketing. I loved the relationship part of it. Well, then later, as we probably all know, marketing started becoming very digital, sitting behind my computer doing, social media things and that kind of stuff. And I lost that connection with it. I lost the passion for it. So
yeah, totally. That can happen, right? A lot of technology changes a lot of things, right? And how we're, especially with all the social media and yeah.
And so that's when I thought, I don't know what I want to do. And so I guess this goes back to your first question you asked me about if I thought I wanted to be the CEO of my own company. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to be in charge, but I didn't ever think it would be of my own company. And then as I kept gaining more and more marketing experience, people kept saying to me, well, why don't you start your own, your own marketing consultancy? Why don't you go out, be an entrepreneur? And that just sounded terrible to me. I don't want to do that at all. Well, I realized later it was because I was not passionate about marketing anymore. I was, I just didn't want to do marketing, but I didn't know what I wanted to do. So again, just a wonderful, fortunate situation that I am so appreciative of is that I actually failed miserably and it turned into a wonderful situation. So I guess I'll tell you about that failure.
Yeah.
So this was the first time I was going to get to do a presentation to Rob Katz, who was our CEO at Vail Resorts. My boss was Kirsten Lynch, who's now the CEO of Vail Resorts. And I took my presentation to Kirsten before I was supposed to present it to Rob. And she just told me it was absolutely horrible. She told me it was, so Feld Entertainment's marketing plans were very different than Vail Resorts plans. And she wanted it to be, which rightly so, more compelling, more of a story, more passionate, and not just facts and figures and numbers and whatnot. So she said to me, I know this course that you need to take. It's called Think on Your Feet. And she said, I took this 15 years prior when I was, younger in my career. And I really feel like it helped me propel me to my C-level position because it helped me tell a story in a more logical way, in a way that was more persuasive to engage my audience. So she asked me to take this course, Think on Your Feet. And fortunately, I was able to bring a facilitator into our office, and all of us marketing directors and VPs took the course together. And we loved it so much. It focuses on how to be more clear, brief, and impactful. And so Kirsten said, well, why don't you get accredited in this course? And now you can start teaching all of our 300 marketing members. This is like a side, your side leadership project. I should say, because after I took the course, I gave my marketing presentation to not only Rob, but the other C-level executives. And one of them came up to me, who was the COO at the time, and said, this is the best marketing plan I have ever seen. And this is the best presentation. And mine was the smallest ski resorts at the time. They were these little Midwest ski hills. And there's these, other coworkers who have really big resorts. And he said, you did such a fabulous job. And Kirsten felt like it was probably because I took this Think on Your Feet workshop and I learned how to do better. So I took that on as my side gig of teaching this Think on Your Feet workshop to all of our coworkers and flying over to all the different resorts that we had in the Tahoe area and Utah and all over Colorado, and fell in love with it. And that's when I was like, wow, this is what I want to do, is lead these communication skills workshops. So,
wow. Well, thank you for sharing that story. I know sometimes it's hard to share the part where you get that hard feedback and you're like, that's not what I was expecting or wanted. And, you knew you're going to get maybe some feedback, but you didn't expect that. Right. And then, by the way, now you need to take a class. And,
right. I
so
told
you
the
can
story in a few minutes, but let me tell you, it was a year and a half process of what I just explained.
But then when you saw the impact of it and how valuable it was, and then it just lit you up, it ignited you, right? And obviously that's kind of where you're going next. So that's so cool.
Yeah. So that's what happened, was that, I definitely had a major failure, and I found this great opportunity through it. So when a woman named Susan Lynn, who's one of my mentors, she was the person that was accrediting me to teach this Think on Your Feet workshop. And she came to, teach me how to do this. And I said, how can I be you? I want to be you. I don't want to be here in the corporate world and the same. I want to be out doing what you're doing, where you get to go to different companies and you get to help different people and teach them these communication skills. And so, that's kind of where that launched from, that moved me into that third and probably final phase of my career, which is the training world that I'm in now. So.
Yeah. Wow. Isn't that cool when you see something or see someone in a position? I remember seeing someone on stage one time and I'm like, oh, I want to do that. I want to be there one day. Or I'm going to be there one day, maybe, is what I was saying in my head. And I didn't really make it as impactful as a declaration. But yeah, if you can, that whole saying about if you can see it, you can be it. And until you saw some of that, you didn't really get how powerful it could be. And then, so you take the class, it's helping you, you're having great success with it, but then you see her and then you're like, oh, wait, this is even more exciting. This is where I want to go. So yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So when did you decide, okay, now I want to be a CEO? Because it is tough. I had to tell you, I was in corporate and saw my younger sister who was an entrepreneur. And I'm like, I don't have that. I fit really well in corporate. I can navigate. I understand the days off and the titles and the levels and the politics and selling. And I'm not in sales, but I was right behind sales and supporting sales. So I knew I didn't want to be a salesperson because I saw how hard it was.
Yeah. Well, so it really just kind of happened gradually with the fact that I said, okay, I've got this Think on Your Feet accreditation and I want to do that, but that's not enough money because it was a contract position where I will say that is a piece of advice I would give to people that do want to start some type of entrepreneurship, is know you have at least some source of customers coming in. And since Think on Your Feet's been around for 35 years, they have all these great customers that they would contract me out to facilitate their workshops. And I didn't have to go in as a new person and say, hey, here I am. I have no client base, but you should trust me to give me your thousands of dollars or whatever,
Yeah, you want to hire me, right? You want to hire me.
Right. So I was very fortunate that they gave me, some contract work that I could go deliver these workshops, but it wasn't enough to be sustaining. And so I then started gaining other accreditations. And so I reflected back on Vail Resorts had a ton of different leadership opportunities there. And I thought, what tools were we using there that I really enjoyed? And that's where that insights discovery came in that I mentioned earlier about the communication styles. And so now my new mentor that I gained is a woman named Carol Pfeiffer, who had been an insights discovery facilitator and executive coach for a few years at that point. And she took me under her umbrella and got me accredited to teach that. And then with that, it opens up a whole new box of tools, because with insights, we use it for team collaboration. We use it for leadership development. It really helps with sales development because it helps you to know how to connect better with your potential customers. Excuse me. And so I gained that insights accreditation. Then I was fortunate. My third kind of section of tools in our communication workshop box is I got introduced to a wonderful woman named Trish Thurley in the UK, who has these workshops that use AI to simulate multiple months of a workplace experience in the matter of a few hours of training. So she accredited me in, and now Fuse is the exclusive distributor of these 4 different workshops, where it's very hands-on learning and it's a gamified experience. So people can't be multitasking. They're really focused on this competition against other teams, and they gain these multiple months of experience in this quick training time. And so I've just been very fortunate to add all of these to the Fuse repertoire. And we now have such a wide variety that we can help so many different people.
Yeah. Wow. So it sounds like you just continue to look at what are those learnings that were impactful for you, and then how do you take that to the next step to become certified in those, which has got to just give you energy too, because if you already liked how it impacted you and made you successful, then you get to dive deeper into it and then share that with others. So it just seems like you're on fire.
Yeah, and then to get other people accredited in it. So that's where we are now with both insights and the simulation workshops, is accrediting other facilitators so that they can bring it to their audiences also, because, as I mentioned before, connections are so important to me. So to help me connect with others and then help them connect with their client base, whether that means that they're an internal trainer at their organization and they just want to help their teams collaborate more. I shouldn't say just, but if they want to do that, or if they're an independent consultant and they want to help their clients to be better leaders or a stronger team or whatnot.
Yeah. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Well, Tracy, this has been very, very exciting to hear about where you're at and how you got to where you are today. So, any other struggles though, as I can tell you're lit up about all these things, but there's still probably some steps in there about, well, how do you get new clients? And have you had any other setbacks that you had to transition out of and get yourself out of? And how did you do that?
Yeah. I think that there's a struggle every day, right? We all encounter different things. I am a very glass half full type of person though. So I do really believe in that fail forward type of mentality. I think maybe that experience that I had where I did so terrible on my marketing plan really made me realize that there's always a silver lining you can find in a cloud. Mm-hmm. And so I'm trying to think, but I try not to reflect too hard on the negative of each wrong step that I take or each time I fail, and I focus on how can I learn from this and not make that same mistake or to make things better. So just trying to think if there's anything specifically I could.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you don't really look at challenges as failures, or you just kind of look at it since it's glass half full. It's like, well, what can I learn from this, and what can I do next, or what can I do with this now, right?
Yeah.
Does this lead to a new learning or a new certification? And so you looked at the one program helped you, but then what else, and then what else? And it sounds like you're kind of that lifelong learner, that you're just looking for what are those things that make you more impactful and more tools in the toolkit, huh?
Yeah, and I think exactly that about being the lifelong learner is learning from any experience you have and making, lemonade out of lemons or whatnot. I think that that's really what I find has been so valuable for me. And like I said, I fail every day. I fail to accomplish everything that I want to do every day. I'll tell you that I put so much on my to-do list, and I always have to move things the next day. And so I always feel like a failure at the end of the day. And then the next morning always feels like a bright new start. And so no.
Yeah. And you're like, wait a minute, I did accomplish a lot yesterday.
Yeah.
It just wasn't these other 17 things that I just keep maybe
right.
unrealistically putting on my list every day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, very cool. Well, let's go ahead and start wrapping it up then. I have two closing questions.
Mhm.
So when you look back on your career and your life, what do you think served you best? Was it a personality trait, or a discipline, or maybe a worldview or characteristic? What do you think served you best?
I think two major things, my drive, so that everlasting energy that I have. I always want to do not only 100% of what I could do, but 110%. And I think that that's really helped me to accomplish some big things. And then I think the other one would be that positive outlook that we were talking about. I think as long as I don't get too wrapped up in my head about the negative side of things, it allows for more opportunity, looking at the positive opportunities.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So what have you done kind of on mindset then? Have you done a lot of work with like meditation, or it's easy to say, oh, I'm just a positive person, but is there some work you've done in that area?
I give my mom full credit for this, of that I feel like it has come naturally to me, and I know it does not to a lot of people. I thank my mom all the time for the fact that she seems to have a similar mindset that comes naturally to her, and I think I inherited it from her. And so I kind of feel bad giving that as advice to other people, because I know it doesn't come as easily. But it does just kind of seem to come naturally. Yeah, I have done a lot of yoga and meditation, and I think especially the world travel part of it. I think especially when I travel and I see other cultures that don't have the same fortunate situations that we have or that I have had in my life, it makes me be more and more appreciative every time I get to do that. I have been missing that the past couple of years. I haven't been able to travel through the pandemic, and I'm excited to get back out in December. My significant other, his parents, and I are getting to take our first trip to South America in December and January. And I am just really fortunate to, again, get out there, realize there's other things out there in the world, and be appreciative of what I do have in my life.
And maybe that because you were uncomfortable at a young age, helped you, that your mom helped you stay positive, and then you learned that it wasn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
And so maybe some of that is part of the development. I gotta tell you, I have a very loud, or had a very loud critic in my head. So I kind of struggled with that. Even though I was a positive person and somewhat optimistic and glass half full, I would say, but I still also was pretty hard on myself. So I appreciate you sharing it, that doesn't occur for you. And that's great. Cause I interviewed another person, and she said, I never got the worry gene. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, what is that like? You know, because when you have the worry gene or you have that critic in your head, that's what is occurring for you. So part of the time you don't even know it's not occurring for others or it is occurring for others. And so a big part I think is, and why I like doing this podcast is because we can talk about it, right? And then I get a better sense of, well, so that doesn't even occur for you. So you're someone I probably need to talk to more about that, about, well, how does life occur then? And so, so I can just be like, well, let it go. The more
Well,
you talk about something, it can go away.
So I definitely do have the critic for sure. And especially after every workshop, I reflect back on it of how did I do this? Like how was this experience for the participants? Was this as best as it could be? So I definitely have the critic, feel like, oh, that was such a great thing, great workshop. Why do I not feel super confident? Why am I doubting myself or whatever? But then I think it's just the positive side of reflecting on that and realizing, okay, this is an opportunity to be even better the next time, or to make it an even better experience. And so I guess that's where I'm saying more my positive comes in, of taking the critique that I do of myself or of my company or of our workshops or whatnot, and turning that into an opportunity. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you get that? I was part of a leadership program once, and they talked about your 2% project. How can you just get 2% better? You're already highly successful leaders, but what would make you that 2% better? And part of it was looking at, blind spots. Obviously, sometimes you have those. But also, and not getting focused on, you don't have to start over and all that, what I mean? But 2% is, easy to get your head around maybe. And so.
Yeah. Well, and, I'm reflecting back now, I'm thinking also about observing other people also. And I think part of that, I know a question you often ask about is mentors that we've had throughout our career. And I think part of that might be where I've gotten that from, because I've had some leaders, just say Mike Ferrazza, when I worked at Feld Entertainment, he is the most happy, upbeat guy. And he thanked us so much. He was so appreciative. I reported to him that he was so appreciative for everything we did. And that really started shaping my outlook early as to how having that positive outlook can make people want to work with you, make people be excited to be working with you, that kind of thing. I think that carried through with both Stacy Poole, Nina Cashman, and Kieran Kane, who were all at Vail Resorts with me, where I'm actually now getting an opportunity to work with Nina some more with our Insights products, as well as Stacy, and they've gone on to other companies. And I just I want to be like those people that are so uplifting to their audiences. And then also Rebecca Tan, who was my mentor when I worked at Lifetime Fitness. She's the same way, just such a positive spirit. And so I think all of those people started making me want to be like them,
Yeah. Back to that, if you can see it, you can be it. But you as a, reporting to them or observing them, you're feeling how great it is to be around them, right? And you're like, oh, I want to be that kind of leader, right? Versus and then we also have those leaders and examples in life, right, where it's oh, I don't want to be that, and I can't, and unfortunately, some of my early bosses were some of that, right? That intimidation, that not the appreciation, the arrogant, the snapping, I'm a, small businessman, genius kind of person. I'm like, oh, this isn't resonating. That's not who I wanted to be, but that's who I thought, well, was this a leader? So did I really want to be a leader?
Exactly. Yeah. I had those people. Those are definitely the glass half empty people. And I purposely did not mention those names. Yes. But I do feel like we can learn from the people that we have negative situations with us.
Well, we can learn from everyone, right? And it's, what do you take away? So, okay, well, the last wrap-up question is, any words of wisdom that really impacted you, maybe when you were stuck or in transition, or just that inspired you?
So at the time when she said it, I felt it was a little cheesy. But Kirsten Lynch, again, back to my Vail Resorts days, always said that she left her world in Chicago by thinking about the phrase or words of wisdom of leap and the net will appear. And she said that she just leapt out of her Chicago world and came to Colorado, and she didn't know what she was going to do. And that's where her Vail Resorts job came, that 10 years later, now she's the CEO of the company. And so she always would talk about leap and the net will appear, leap. And it's like, yeah. But then when I was in that spot where I was stuck, and I guess that's something else we didn't really reflect as much on, but that part where I just felt drained by being a marketing director. And I just thought, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, that was a real low point, right? What can I do? This isn't what is satisfying to me. And so then I did start thinking about, that saying, that leap and the net will appear thing. And where should I leap? And I started thinking about, what am I passionate about? This was another, I guess, negative I had with it. I almost started a fitness business, like a brick and mortar, like bar studio, or the fitness class,
like
studio.
the ballet bar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about a year before the pandemic. Boy, wouldn't that have been? That would have been a big failure, because that's what I was passionate about at that time. And instead I thought, what do I already have a skill set as? Well, I'm accredited in this Think on Your Feet course. I'm teaching it a little bit here and there. What else should I do? And so I thought, back to that phrase, that leap and the net will appear. Okay, I'm going to leap. I know I already have a little bit of a net there. I have like this tiny little net with this Think on Your Feet work. So maybe how can I just make that net bigger? And so I think that visual of, I have a small net, but growing my net, and I can't rely on somebody else to put the net out there. I've got to, piece those pieces together. And I kind of envision myself tying the rope and putting it together and making the net bigger. And I think that goes to not only the net of my courses I got accredited in, but also the net of the network that I love, right? Connections. It goes back to connections again. And so I was picturing this net of like the network of people that I could use to support me, not use, but to, mutually beneficial, support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where those mentors came in, and someone like Susan Lynn that I said was the mentor for Think on Your Feet, and Carol Pfeiffer that took me in from the insights world and all of that. And so growing that net more and more allowed me to feel comfortable. And I'll say I probably didn't ever leap. I just kind of tiptoed and walked onto the net, right? But just that visual helped me walk a little further out onto that net each day, one step at a time,
Yeah. What a great story. I love how you're like, oh, it was so cheesy at the time, and she probably used it a lot, and but then look at how powerful it has been for you. And it's been that thing that has really kind of put you out there in a very big way. She was really impactful in your life too, it sounds like, in terms of that, again, that criticism, and then a solution for you that led to your whole now career and business. So that's pretty powerful. So awesome. Well, Tracy, I could probably talk to you all afternoon, but we do have to wrap up at some point. So anyway, thank you so much for sharing your story today. And you never know who needed to hear this. So,
well, thank you, Kathy. And you brought out things for me that I had never even thought of or hadn't thought of in many years. So I appreciate your engaging questions that you ask. So thank you.
Well, awesome. Well, you never know who they could really, you can inspire someone today with that whole, I'm going to leap and the net will appear. So
you got to build those sometimes. Yep.
And listeners, if you enjoyed today's interview, please subscribe below and you'll be alerted as other interviews are published. If you have any questions for me or for Tracy, you can find this interview on lifestorycurator.com. That's my website. And I'll also post her social media so you can reach out to her. And on that note, I'll say stay safe, stay well, and let's keep sharing the stories. Have a great day.